Hi, welcome to the Worldviews and Ethics course. For non-MEEK students, I'm Bob Cull. For MEEK students, I'm still Bob Cull, although I'm not quite sure what that means. I seem to change, just the name stays the same over the years. I should tell you a little about myself because I think that's only fair. MEEK students, you've met me briefly last summer. Non-MEEK students, I got my PhD from UBC not so many years ago, interdisciplinary studies. And for my research into the effects of deep wilderness solitude, I went and lived alone in the wilderness for a year, and I journaled the experience and wrote it up, my dissertation, as a narrative, a personal narrative. One of the things in preparing to go into the wilderness that I discussed, negotiated with my committee, is that I had two bottom lines. The first was that I, in fact, got to spend a year alone in the wilderness, that I didn't want to study other people's experience of wilderness solitude. I wanted to study my own. Therefore, I wanted and insisted on spending a year by myself in the wilderness. The second part of my bottom line was that all of myself would come into the process. As an undergraduate at McGill, I was pretty disappointed. I didn't start undergraduate work until I was 40. I lost my lower leg in a motorcycle crash where I was teaching scuba diving in the Caribbean. And in my undergraduate studies, it's like who I was as a human being wasn't welcome into the program. So I had to kind of check myself at the university gates, and that all that was welcome was the intellectual aspect of who I was. And I find that this kind of fragmentation is at the root or at the heart of a lot of what I consider are social and environmental difficulties. So in my graduate work, I insisted that I would bring all of myself into the process. Not only my intellect, but my emotions, my physicality, my spiritual aspects, everything that I am, the lights and the darks, would find a place in my dissertation. So that's my invitation to you in this course, is that you bring all of yourselves into the course, no matter how you feel. If you're feeling really grumpy, or if you're feeling troubled by the content of the course, some of the stuff is challenging, bring it all in. If you think the course is crap, bring that in. If you think that I'm out of my mind, you can bring that in. It's all welcome and open for discussion, as long as we treat each other with respect and caring. So my intention in my interactions with you in facilitating this course is to treat you with respect and to facilitate your own process of exploration. I sometimes have a strange sense of humor, and it's a little twisted at times. So if you ever feel that I've been disrespectful to you, please take it as an article of faith that I don't intend to be, and contact me and say, hey, you know what you said kind of rubbed the wrong way. And so we can talk about it. Please don't harbor it, because it's not my intention to be disrespectful or rude. I'm trying to learn not to swear. In the academic setting, I tend to swear in my life. It's just part of the way I interact with the world. It's the way I use language. And so sometimes it slips, but I'm attempting to kind of shape the communication without it becoming dry and academic, because I find dry academic communication pretty tedious. So the resources I've chosen for the course aren't particularly academic as such. There's a lot of videos, there's a lot of audios, and the writing, I've tried to make it as really rich and personal as possible. The course is not linear. You'll notice right away that it's not linear because our lives aren't linear. The course circles around. Ethics arise out of our worldviews, and our worldviews are informed by our ethics. So the different modules of the course aren't particularly standalone, and sometimes you might think, well, you know, this reading we're doing in this week would have maybe fit better in a previous week, and sometimes that might be the case. But what I've tried to do is balance the readings over the whole course so that some weeks aren't too light and some weeks aren't too heavy. There's a lot of readings posted, resources I call them, because it's not just readings. There are required ones and there are optional ones, additional ones. You're not responsible for the additional ones unless you want to be. I've included them because they're things that I found interesting over the years, and I thought that some of you might really find them interesting too. So if you have the time and different titles intrigue you, jump right into them. You might otherwise just add them to your own personal reading list. So, but you're responsible for the required resources, and I've listed them in the order we'll probably cover them in the weekly conference calls. We may wander afield, but I try to kind of follow that order because I know that sometimes you don't get everything read by the time your conference call comes up. I've got notes on my screen as why I pause from now and then. So there are three threads of the course of worldviews and ethics that we explore. The first is self-reflection, and then there's the readings, resources, and then there's conversations with, in our conference calls and off-conference calls with your friends, your teammates, and also the Moodle discussion forums. So all of these are important, and they feed into each other. So we're not just looking at worldviews and ethics as kind of a theoretical topic. The heart of the course is to look inward and explore our own worldviews, our own sense of ethics. And in order to do this, it requires discipline. We all have blind spots, aspects of ourselves we don't really want to look at. And it's challenging to look at those things. I've been doing this for years, and I've still got blind spots, and it's still challenging for me to look at parts of myself that I don't like very much. And so in this course, try to be patient with yourself. Try to be kind and patient and kind with each other. This is not easy stuff. So just kind of be gentle as you go through these inner explorations. So in the inward reflection, there's a couple aspects of that as well. One is that you actually think about things. You reflect on the readings, you reflect on your conversations. But there's another aspect in which we quiet the mind. We use our own breathing as our anchor. And then we quiet the mind. Thoughts will always arise, but the intention is that we don't follow and feed those thoughts, that when we notice we're lost in thought, we come back to our own breathing. And from a quiet mind, the idea is that new insights arise that come from without our typically structured thinking patterns. So I'll do another podcast to give some basic instructions on the self-reflection. Some people call it meditation, others call it mindfulness practice. So whatever you call it, that's fine. So that'll be a part of the course, and I'll do another podcast on that. We'll start each week's conference calls with 15 minutes of silent reflection, and then another 5 minutes or so of loving kindness meditation. And this will create the platform and the space within which our conference calls take place. So I hope you enjoy them. Don't worry about the length of the conference calls. I've heard that sometimes people at the beginning of the course think, oh God, 2 hours conference call each week. That's going to be impossible. My experience is that by the end, or not by the end, but within a very short time, people really look forward to the conference calls. It's a place to open up and discuss all kinds of things. So they're pretty lively and fun. So I hope you enjoy those. With luck, the course will trigger a lot of really great questions for you. Unfortunately, I don't have any answers. I have some thoughts, some tentative reflections, but it's not as though I'm setting myself up as the expert going to give you the wisdom of the ages or anything like that. I'm part of this process of exploration together. So together we'll create the course, and the more you put in, the better the course will be, and the more you'll get out of it. So please really give yourself to the course, as I do each year. It pretty much takes over my life for the length of the course. My idea, my approach to teaching the course is not to become experts in anything, but rather to open windows for consideration, new ideas, new areas for reflection that perhaps later on after the course you'll continue to explore. So that's my intention. There's a lot of different resources of a really wide spectrum of perspectives on the world, worldviews, and different ethical stances. And so I ask you to just consider them. You don't have to agree or disagree. Just consider them. Every year, Deanne Turnbull Loverock and I update the website. And we do this based on your feedback. So at the end of the course or during the course, if there's something that you'd really like to feed back to me to improve the course, improve my facilitation of it, that's really important. I can't invite you strongly enough to share with me at the end of the course or during your suggestions for how the course can be improved. This will be your gift to the next year's students, so I'll appreciate that a lot. If there's something in the course that isn't working for you, please let me know so I can address it. On the website, there's a lot of information in the overview, the outline, and all that stuff. There's a section called Must Read Information. This will help your marks. Please be sure to read all of that at least a couple of times. It's really important to help you find your way around in the course. Hopefully, you'll find the course well organized, but there's a lot of content. So don't just skim over that stuff. Really dig into it, because most of the questions you might have are probably answered there. The Moodle navigation can be confusing. There's nothing I can do about it. So if you get lost, just go up to the breadcrumb trail in the top address bar at the left-hand side and click on the course number. It'll take you back to kind of the ground zero, and you can find your way again to where you want to go. So spend a little time in the first week. I'll try to get the course open a week ahead of time so you can go in and explore the course if you want to. Please don't feel obliged to do this. That week is your vacation between courses. But if you do want to do it, feel free to go in. I'm not guaranteeing yet I can have it open, but I hope so. And you can just kind of find your way around the course so that when the course starts, you go, oh yeah, okay, I know how to find my way through the website. So that's your option, whether you want to do that or not. So just as a really basic, there are two basic notions of worldviews. One's a conceptual one, a conceptualized notion of, say, Christianity or scientific materialism or Islam or whatever. And these are conceptualizations of how groups of people see the world, the way they perceive the world. But that is a conceptual overview. More fundamentally, a worldview is everything we experience. Our emotions, our conceptualizations, our physicality, everything we experience in the world, that is our most fundamental worldview. So just be aware that there are these two different kind of descriptions of what a worldview is. So the requirements each week is that you participate in the conference call. I urge you strongly to not miss the conference calls. They will be recorded in case you have no alternative but to miss one. Life happens. And then in that case, you can listen to the recording and imagine what you might have created and then write an essay. I can't remember if I ask it to be 1,000 or 2,000 words. It's on the website as a makeup sort of a thing. But I encourage you to try to make all the conference calls. It's a really important part of the course. You're also responsible each week for 2 substantive posts to Moodle, to the Moodle site. If you have other discussions outside these 2 forums, the Moodle site and the conference calls, great. I encourage you to do that, but I can't track all of that. And so the course assessment will be on those 2 aspects of your participation. I'm also going to do another short podcast on marking. And I'm going to do a short instructional podcast on the mindfulness practice. So I'm going to spend a little while talking about conference calls now. We meet for, as I said, for 2 hours a week. A couple of etiquette things. Please find a quiet place from which to participate. Don't sit in a coffee shop or a bar or anything like that. It's incredibly distracting because all that noise, you might not be aware of it when you're present in that situation, but it comes through your microphone, distracting to everybody else on the call. Be sure that you use earbuds. If you use an open air speakers, your microphone will pick that up and we get weird echo sounds. So please get some earbuds if you don't already have them. You can use a headset if you prefer, but some way of closed in sound. It's preferable if you can use a wired connection, even if you're on a laptop. The software, the Zoom software, seems cleaner and we get higher quality resolution and sound if everybody's using a wired-in connection. So attempt to find a place where you can do that with a wired-in connection. Lighting is important. Often we don't think about it, but if you set up your place where you participate in the conference calls every week so that you have light shining on your face, not from behind, not a window or an overhead light from behind, but that you have your face is lit from in front. Because if we can't see each other's faces, if we're just a silhouette, then we can't read each other's expressions. It would be nice to be physically present to each other, but these conference calls are kind of a good second thing because we can actually see each other and read each other's expressions. Moderators. So I'll moderate the first couple of weeks to kind of give everybody a chance to settle in, and then there'll be a sign-up sheet. Each team will have their own sign-up sheet for you to volunteer to moderate each week. And you can do that in conjunction with being the host of the Moodle discussion forum, or you can trade off if you want to do it on different weeks. That's completely up to how your team wants to organize. When you are the moderator, make sure that you post to the Moodle forum at least a couple of days ahead of the conference call 3 juicy questions that you'd like to discuss in the conference call based on the readings. And so your team members can have a chance to reflect on that. I'll send out an invitation to your team before the conference call, an email invitation, and in that email invitation it will have a link, a URL link, and that will take you into the call room. So make sure that you save that email to some place where you can find it, because I won't send them out every week. Your conference call will be at the same day, same time each week, and you'll need that email to find your way into the room. So be sure to save that someplace safe. Okay, pay attention. We'll talk about this in the first conference call, but really pay attention here. Our teams are organized. You'll know this from the emails we've exchanged already. The teams are organized around the day of the conference call. So people that can be available at a certain time of a day of a week, they form a team. Because the teams are, the conference calls are different days of the week, your week in the course starts 4 days before the conference call. And it ends when the assignments are due. That week's assignments are due at midnight on the 3rd day after the call. Okay? So forget the calendar of weekends on the calendar, Saturday and Sunday. That doesn't hold in this course. I know that holds in your work week, but in this course, the weeks are set up around the day of your conference calls. So don't feel like if your conference call is on a Tuesday, you haven't had time to read the readings, because your week has started on the previous Friday or Saturday, I guess, Friday. So every team has the same amount of time to do the readings and the same amount of time to complete the assignments relative to the conference call. So if you're not clear about that, don't fret. We'll talk about it in the first conference call. I think that's everything I want to talk about. So welcome again to the course, and it's great to have you here, and I look forward to meeting you all in the conference calls.